डायलिसिस में पानी पूरी खवा दी थी मम्मी जी। डायलिसिस रहता क्या? डायलिसिस रहता?
Okay. All right. So, hello everyone. Once again, a very, very warm welcome to all of you. And we are very happy to see our waiting room absolutely full. We have 100 participants and we're very glad to see all of you here with us. Okay, so I hope my audio is absolutely clear for all of you and that you can see me. If you can, then just give me a thumbs up or a yes in the chat box. Okay, great. All right. Okay, so greetings to all of you from whichever path that you have come, whichever part of the world that you have come in and have joined another webinar of ours, which is a part of our Let's Hear It from the Expert series. We request all of you to keep your mics on mute throughout the webinar to ensure a smoother virtual experience. Towards the end of the webinar, we will open the space up for any questions that you may have or you may like to ask. And a recording of this webinar will later also be put up on our YouTube channel. So you can always revisit the points that have been discussed here today. Now, before I go into actually introducing the topic of the day, I would like to introduce our organization, EMOTICONS India, to everyone. Yeah. So EMOTICONS India is a psychological counseling, testing, training, and research center. We have a lot of services that we do under our belt. And as I'm sure you can see on your screen right now, these are some of our standard services. We are into psychological counseling and psychotherapy for various age groups, from children who are 2-year-olds to adults who are 80 to 85 years old. Then we have a lot of certificate courses, trainings, and workshops that we go through. Some of the trainings are in RABT or play therapy. And we also have a training certificate course known as postgraduate course in counseling psychology, which is a year-long certificate course, which helps you to then become a certified counselor. We also work in the research sector where we provide consultations, and we are also in the tech, we also conduct psychological tests for children, adults in various areas. Yeah. Now to introduce the topic for today. Of course, I spoke about counseling and another area which is therapy. These are the two areas that we majorly talk about when it comes to a career in psychology. But the field of psychology is not just refrained to that. The field is so vast that sometimes it gets quite overwhelming or confusing as to what to do or which path to even take within psychology. And we thought, why not have a webinar on exactly that, through which we can help all of you to explore some of these career options and even help you in finding out how to get there. Yeah. So our speaker for today is Professor Anil Savarkar. He is a psychologist, psychotherapist, psychometrician, and a researcher. Professor Savarkar is also the head of the psychology department at Fergusson College in Pune. He is also a chief mentor and advisory at EMOTICONS India. We are very, very glad to have you with us, Professor Savarkar, and we are sure that you are definitely going to help us venture into this vast field known as psychology. Now,
thank you, Nisha.
Yep. Now, our mediator for today for this webinar is Ms. Nikunja. She is the founder and director of EMOTICONS India and was a visiting faculty at Fergusson College and Flame University in Pune. I am sure that this webinar is going to help you out in a lot of areas related to psychology. And without further ado, I would like to hand over this platform to both of you to really help clarify this for everyone.
Thank you, Anisha. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Professor Anil Savarkar.
Good evening, Nikunja.
This is so wonderful that I'm having this live webinar with you, because it's really, you have been a really important person, a mentor in my life when it came to my career in psychology. And I'm sure a lot of them are going to benefit from this entire webinar. They are going to make the most out of it, and everyone is looking forward to hear you with a lot of enthusiasm. So I would like to really get into this entire discussion with you, where we will be discussing some of the questions that we have already received on psychology and how one can get into the psychology as a career and how can one make the most out of it. So before anybody really tries to get into the career, I'm sure it's important for everyone to know that what psychology is all about. So I'm sure there are many different definitions people read in the book and different kinds of notion people already have. But would you like to simplify in your own language, the way you always do it for us, what is psychology and how should one understand psychology as a subject?
Yeah, so thanks, Nikunja, for calling me and to interact with people and explain them what are the different careers about psychology. So assuming that the audience is there, that's what I got to know from you, that there are maybe the students who are at the 10th standard or the 12th standard, or the family also would like to know the career for their own children, and also maybe the students from graduation and post-graduation. So keeping that in mind, maybe I'll try to make it simple. So regular general definition of psychology is a scientific study. So we talk about scientific study of human behavior and mental processes. So in order to make it very simple, in psychology, we talk about three things, right? And that is we are thinking, the philosophy that we hold in our brain, and then the emotions and the behavior, which is unfortunately not taking care in the school. Okay, and somewhere that is introduced at the college level. So it's the whole phenomena trying to understand how the thinking works, how the emotions are related to thinking, and the behavior, and in how this behavior and emotion, relate to thinking. So it's a scientific study. That's something very, very important. Scientific is more of evidences that have to be there in order to, whenever you mention something about psychology, we talk about proofs and evidences. So it's a scientific study. Yeah.
That's really a well simplified definition, and I'm sure everyone now, before we get into understanding the career opportunities and scope of this field, they know what this psychology as a subject is actually and what it isn't it? So you would see, Anil sir, that this entire pandemic also, or this COVID-19 scenario, it really has gotten some of the attention now on the mental health profession also. So many of the times, some of the students reach out to me as well and ask that what can be really done in this field? Like, is this an emerging field now? And what are the different career opportunities in the field of psychology that I can have? So could you please let us know what is the scope of this subject called psychology and how one can really understand the emerging fields in psychology, especially in India?
Yeah. See, psychology, the whole area of psychology is a mystery. Why? Because this has been always there. Always there. I would say from the when the human being is born, psyche is there.
True.
Okay. It's just that people have not noticed it. Okay. People have not given importance. But uh, it was definitely there. People maybe couldn't study during that time, and that's why psychology was part of philosophy. It was just people were talking about mainly thinking, and then people realized, as I told you, that people realized that there's an importance of evidences, and that's why it is came out from philosophy, and it became as psychology. Now, uh, emerging field, and there are different fields that are there. Mainly right now we talk about it's a counseling field that is very important right now when it comes to pandemic. Okay, so the people are going through a lot of emotional issues, lot of behavioral issues, and that's why the importance of counseling is growing. So counseling, maybe I would answer again, maybe if you have certain question related to that. So the counseling, then there's the clinical psychology. Okay, health psychology. All right, so clinical and health psychology is related. These are now becoming very important, especially dealing with these type of cases that are happening. People are going through a lot of issues because maybe jobs and all is becoming a problem. Business is all going down. Okay, and people are perceiving a lot of stress and they do not know how to manage. And that's the reason there's a need and importance of many effective counselors, psychologists, clinical psychologists, psychiatrists, and social workers, psychiatric social workers. Okay, so this is a new importance. People have realized it was always there. It was always there, but people have realized the importance of these people. Okay, and yeah. So besides that, there are many other fields of psychology. Right now, this is the main thing. But if you talk about psychological field that one can take, okay, so I would say so. First, the core branch was always the clinical psychology because people thought the psychology was all about disorders, mental disorders.
Right.
Okay? So it was all clinical psychology. And before the clinical psychology, the psychiatrists were very popular. And even in the movies and all, everyone only or is aware about psychiatry. You pick up Hollywood movie, you talk about Bollywood movies, you will always see psychiatrists being spoken about. I think the latest was somewhere that Bollywood movie Hindi. I think there's a Shah Rukh Khan. I don't remember which is that movie.
Dear Zindagi.
Yeah, Dear Zindagi. So somewhere Shah Rukh Khan tried to mention that there is a psychologist or psychotherapist.
Right.
Okay, where there's a talking therapy that goes on. But before that, I really wonder how many people really knew that there is a psychologist or clinical psychologist. The psychiatrist being very popular. So the clinical psychology, that's an important area, which is always there. Then another area is industrial psychology. Okay,
Yes.
very important area because industrial psychology, corporate sector. If you see today, what has happened in the corporate sector is affected so much, right? Okay, so there is now I remember. I think there are so many people from the corporate sector must be taking going ahead for the counseling sessions. But every corporate sector, there's a need for a good industrial psychologist. So there are so many things the industrial psychologist can do. So many issues that are there in the corporate, you see. So that industrial psychology is a big area and very important area that people should go ahead for, and they can do really wonders in the corporate sector. So that's industrial psychology. Third one I would say is child psychology. Child, a lot of problems that the children can go through from a normal issue to abnormal issues. Right, so child psychology and adolescent, so child with adolescent psychology, so those people who are very, very good with children, who are empathetic and they can really deal with children. So you're meant for, to become a good child psychologist. According to me, if you ask me, I think there should be everywhere different centers, where people are there to take care of the children. So the behavioral issue, cognitive issues, so child psychology is a very, very important area. Counseling is another one. So clinical psychology and counseling is related, but they're still different. Okay, so counseling is it's everywhere. We require a good counselors, and that's why the counseling psychology is something very, very important. People should go ahead for this particular area as well. So if you were to ask me in India, these are the four dominant, I would say: industrial psychology, clinical psychology, child psychology, and counseling psychology. So these are four areas which are important, famous, and there is a scope for these. Besides that, there are other psychologies that people can go for, like you can go for sports psychology, but unfortunately you do not have special colleges for that. So that's why, but then people can go abroad and do sports psychology, and see the scope is very huge. You do not have to wait for someone to do something about it. So the students can really explore this area, go get training, and they do wonders in India about sports psychology. So same way, I would say there's a criminal psychology, forensic psychology. All right. So this is another, forensic psychology is another area, criminal psychology another area. But again, unfortunately, it does not have right now. Presently, not so much of importance is there, but people can explore. As I told you, there's a scope. You can explore. Uh, then I would say again, there's a rehabilitation centers. You see, there's a rehabilitation centers, so people can think about opening about this rehabilitation center. But you need to do a lot of things because it's something. Uh, it's a big thing to start a rehabilitation center, and there are different qualifications. Maybe I might again tell you later on. So that's an area. Very important area is you can be an entrepreneur. Entrepreneur, yeah. So right now Nikunja is talking to me. She's an entrepreneur, and so there are also like Nikunja. There are other students of mine, Fergusson College, other colleges also. They have necessary qualifications, and they have ventured into a difficult area. But no, you can if you really put in hard work and work smartly, you can do really, and you can start your own center. So that entrepreneur is an important area, and I think many people should go for. Uh, Besides that you can also become a professor in psychology. Yeah, that's another area where you have to give a net set exam, and yeah, so that's also, as a professor, you can do different things in psychology. Yes, so these are different areas that people can do their careers in psychology. I think I have mentioned almost all. Yeah. But plus, by
Right.
the way, yeah, there's a cognitive, yes, there's a cognitive psychology, cognitive neuroscience. Yes, yeah. Yes, sorry, I forgotten certain areas again. Yeah, so cognitive neuroscience is another important that is the area is becoming popular. Okay. Plus, people can become psychometrician. That's, I think I have missed on to, because if you connect with people, you connect with organization. It's a good news because the corporate sector also they realize the importance of scientific inquiry, realize the importance of researches. So that's why, especially when they want to really bring out the changes with their own employees and all, they would like to use the scientific method, and also scientific method for recruitment. And that's the reason they are looking for now a good psychometrician. They're looking for people who can do this job for them. So psychometrician in the area, which is a tough one, difficult, because research and psychometrician, these both can go together. And people, those who have scientific attitude and liking towards this testing, which is very, very important in psychology. So psychometrician can be an important area. So people are really asking for a good psychometrician these days. That's another scope in psychology.
Right. I think that's brilliant that there's so many options, right? One things that when it comes to really venturing into the career like psychology, it's very limited. But actually, as we hear you, and I'm sure there are many other things which might come to you later, but there are so many things that actually people can venture into. They can try as a career opportunity. So with that, would you like to let us know about some of the common degrees or that ladder that one has to take to become a psychologist, and what kind of educational qualifications one require to become a psychologist?
Yeah, so Nikunja, unfortunately, if I have to answer these particular questions in India, um, it is not very definite and specific. So
Yeah,
I hope down the line people will do something about it. But there are certain basic understandings that are there, which I would like to explain to you.
sure.
Okay. So first of all, to be a psychologist, so to say, I would say, so this is also another thing I would like to say. People these days, they finish maybe UG degree, or sometimes they finish with a PG degree, and they start calling themselves psychologists. Okay, which I think we need to still refrain. So general understanding of to call oneself as a psychologist, I think basic has to be MA post graduation, and after that at least you should be having a advanced degree, and that is MPhil or PhD or PsyD. Okay, so these are the advanced and very practical degrees that people have. So when you have those degrees, I think there where you should call yourself a psychologist. So that's a regular understanding.
Right.
Yeah. So yes, so what else you wanted to ask, Nikunja? Sorry, I just
About the degrees mainly, like,
correct. Yeah,
person, yeah.
fine. So that's related to this. So we need to have these basic so people first of all should do psychology at the UG level. Okay,
Right.
that is something very important. And plus followed by the PG degree. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
people should be doing. And so it's a degree where you can go ahead. For example, if you want to become a clinical psychologist, I'm using the word clinical psychology. So somewhere
Yes.
people call themselves clinical psychologists after post graduation, which is not correct. Okay, so if you want to be a clinical psychologist, then you need to do 2 years of, sorry, UG degree plus PG degree, and followed by MPhil. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
followed by MPhil, where you have to have an RCI license to call yourself clinical psychologist.
Right.
Okay, RCI license, and or so that is an MPhil, and followed by, now these days people also go for PsyD. So two
Right.
years of MPhil, and then if you want to do PsyD, so PsyD is more of practical again experience. So again,
Mm-hmm.
this is a clinical psychology I'm talking about. So clinical psychology is where you are able to deal with normal patients and mainly abnormal patients.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you get a lot of practical experience. So that's a journey towards becoming a clinical psychologist. So again, I'm repeating. So it's UG, you should be having psychology. PG degree, you should be having clinical psychology. Plus, you need to do MPhil with RCI license. Okay, I have my own issues related to RCI license, but then I will not talk about. I just mentioned about what is the government is talking about. So this is an RCI license with MPhil. And then again, people would like to have an advanced knowledge where this is a practical, where you have a practical treating, having experience with treating the clinical patients, and plus research. So then people also go for PsyD. So this is a regular thing where you can become a clinical psychologist. If you
Right.
want to become an industrial science, I will talk about especially mainly these particular areas where people, it's a dominant area in India. So where in industrial psychology, it is good enough that you do psychology at the UG level and MA at PG level. So there is no advance, so to say. Yes, you can do PhD research degree. That definitely you can go ahead with. But if you do MA in industrial psychology, I think good enough that you can. There are job opportunities abroad. You can go also, and maybe in India also. You can soon after your MA, you can get employed. So again, I would like to little speak more about this industrial psychology, because before the demand was very good for MBA students. right? So people
Right.
would prefer MBA students, but right now I think people or corporate people, they do know about industrial psychologists. They don't know about OB and OD, organization behavior development. So people do prefer a good industrial psychologist because knowledge about industry can you within 6 months of experience you can definitely have, but the knowledge of psychology is something that the industries are looking forward to, and that's why this industrial psychology can be a very very good scope and people can go for, especially people who are corporate people who would like to make changes in the corporate sector. So it's an industrial psychology. Counseling psychology is, again, I would suggest that psychology at undergraduate level and 2 years degree counseling that you can have. Yeah, but again, I would suggest that these days there is a diploma course in counseling, professional course in counseling. So there's a diploma course that people do have. There's a certificate course people can have. So if you do not do psychology, so I understand there are certain times, at FIBA level, when people go from 12th standard to FIBA level, there's a huge demand in psychology, and unfortunately maybe sometimes people do have that hunger for psychology and they cannot become a psychologist. So that's why maybe this PGCCP, so to say, certificate course in counseling can be very very effective. And plus there are people you see who go to different fields after your graduation, post graduation. Certain people go for engineers, other people can go for doctors, right? Okay. And then they realize that they would like to be they are good with people, they would like to practice psychology. So these are people who would like to really do something about counseling, and that's why they can become part of this certificate course, as long as it is authentic, as long as it is a professional course and minimum 1 year course. Okay, so I think that's also is good area where people can practice psychology and become counselor. So that's a counseling. You see, these days people do, but make sure that the counselors who call themselves counselors, they should have enough experience, but they are not clinical psychologists.
Yeah.
All right. So counselors, they deal with regular issues of life, the family, marriage counseling, all this, but then they are not allowed, since they are not clinical psychology with RCI license, they cannot really practice abnormal patients. But they can work with psychiatrists, they can work with clinical psychologists, they can work in the schools, and they can also open their own centers. So this is what the clinical psychologists can, counselors can do.
Right.
Child psychologist. So unfortunately, child psychology is an area where that's not regular degree colleges that you will have. Very, very few colleges you will see the child psychology, but I don't see in India whether. But abroad, definitely different places, especially UK. UK, US, Germany, they do offers 1 year or 2 years course in child psychology. But then again, from my experience, a lot of my students go abroad and going there and then coming back and practicing on Indian kids, it becomes little difficult. But then if you want to become a child psychologist again, I think you should have UG psychology and PG clinical psychology, at least clinical psychology. And yes, so that's another area where after UG, PG in clinical psychology, you can get into direction of child psychology, right? Whereas, yeah, I think these. And then again, for all forensic, criminal, health psychology comes from clinical psychology again. Very much related to clinical psychology, should be doing clinical psychology. And then you can get into hospitals. Hospitals work with the doctors. Right now, I think if you have seen that government jobs are opened, and in the government jobs, they're talking about clinical psychologists and psychiatric social workers, so especially people who do MSW and also the psychiatric social worker, plus clinical psychologists and counselors, they're required. So there's a lot of job opening from the government where the people prefer clinical psychologists from our area. Okay. So that's another, I think, yeah. So
Wonderful.
that's the job opening that is available. Yes.
Okay. And while you were talking about this, many of them, I'm sure, have this doubt about, a lot of them cannot do probably psychology masters from the open universities. I mean, from the regular universities. So many of them choose to do it from the open universities. So what is your view on it? And after that, how effective do you think they can still make their practice? Because it's more like a distance learning mode, which we in the field of psychology, which is more of an application-based study, might have some restrictions. So your views on that?
Yeah, see, sometimes what okay, the psychology, the first definition, scientific study of human behavior and mental processes.
Right.
So when it comes to psychology, if you ask me my personal views, anything, distance education, I would definitely suggest people, please don't do that. Okay, there are distance education, and there, people go for MA and they do MA degree. Okay, because the distance educations, you do not have the knowledge that is required, and we are dealing with human beings. If you want to become a clinical psychologist and counselor, and if you do not have the depth knowledge, which is maybe you should be getting from a particular college or particular institute, right? You will not able to become an effective psychologist. And I'm telling you this is from the experience. The reason being, again, that I deal with so many students and all, and I get the calls from these students, sir, can I come and talk to you? This distance education, I've enrolled here and I'm not getting the guidance. Can I do research with you? Can I come? Means maybe some centers that that will have a practical experience. The students do struggle when it comes to distance education. Nonetheless, you can please, because if you have hunger for psychology, you can go for it. I have no problem with that. But when that should be a basic, that should be a starting point. And then somewhere maybe after doing that, you need to get into, so suppose I would suggest, especially for people, distance education, maybe that's a starting point that you're getting into. But then after that, at least get into some certificate course or maybe diploma course, okay, where you'll be getting day-to-day practical training in some place. So at least maybe if you want to really do a career in psychology, and because you're not going through a regular pattern of doing UG degree and a regular, but then that 1 year important field experience with regular supervision, if you have all those things, you should be doing that after your distance course. So I'm not denying that. Please go if you want to have hunger for this psychology, you want to go and somewhere you're not getting admission, but it should not be a method, okay, I'm working somewhere and I would like to go for the distance. That attitude will not be okay. So you go for the distance, get that, but then no, you will struggle. Suppose tomorrow you want to do MPhil somewhere and there are interview process everywhere, and the moment you say that I have done a distance education, you will be rejected. Okay, because they expect you to be really very, very good. So again, my advice would be all those people who are doing courses, please go ahead. I have no problem, but that should be a starting point. And then please make sure that you get admission into a particular institute where you can complete your professional course and start practicing. That would be a better idea.
Right. Okay. That brings me to another question, which is mainly, I could see somewhere in between flashing also in the chat box. There are these two degrees, okay? One is called BA and another one is called BSc. Just like that, at the PG level, it's called MA and MSc. So would you explain that difference to everyone?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Okay, now see, if you look at the definition of psychology, the scientific study of human behavior and mental processes, right? Scientific. So that's the reason is psychology can come under arts and also it can come under science, right? Okay. But the problem here is this is I've also seen from the students. Okay, so the certain students come in with me, sir, I got admission in certain college. I said, okay, fine. So what are you doing? I am doing MSc in psychology. And in the moment also they say that I'm doing MSc in psychology, there is an attitude. There is something that forget about psychology, more focus is not in psychology. The focus is on I'm doing MSc science. And unfortunately, this is happening. And I would just make people aware, hey, listen, people, please don't get into that attitude about, because that shows that somewhere maybe that, negative attitude that I'm doing arts and psychology. So it's not really good. If I do psychology from science, then there's an importance. People, please really understand. If you're doing psychology from science or psychology from arts, your syllabus does not change. Psychology is psychology. right? It does not really change drastically. Okay, so you still become a psychologist, you become a clinical psychologist or a health psychologist, whatever, these things remain the same. So this is what I would like to definitely mention to the students. And see, what is happening is like there are universities when they have started the degree courses, they have started, like for example, Pune University, they started and put psychology in arts. And if you do it from arts background, then you don't learn anything. Absolutely not, nothing like that. So if you do psych, so there are, I'm telling you from the experience as an HOD, every year I have families coming to me, so do you have psychology from science or do you have psychology from arts? This is an attitude that I have seen, but unfortunately that should be out from there. First of all, that attitude of science is greater, students are bright and intelligent, art they're dumb. This attitude should be taken out, and parents should not put. And also children, please understand, whether it's art, science, okay, both are equal and both have got its own advantages. So right, so again, science and arts, science doesn't become very great or you don't become a very great psychologist. Psychology is psychology. You should be an effective psychologist to deal with people, and that can be done as long as you get good experience in arts or good experience in science, and most of the things depends on you as a person.
True. True. That's so true. When you said that most of the things depend on you as a person, that just makes me ask you the question that what do you think as the basic skills that a person should have in order to become or, you know, get into the field of psychology?
You got to be a very good human being.
Absolutely. And I knew this answer,
This
but I
is,
still would like to hear
so
more.
I would always suggest all those people, the students, those who want to be a psychologist. This is a noble profession. I would say noble profession. Okay, and I would again should say that become a psychologist, counselor, clinical psychologist. You're spending time with clients. I do not have anything against psychiatrists. Okay, but I would say even better than psychiatrist is profession, because the psychiatrist, 1 hour you have 10 to 15 clients maybe giving the medicines and it's over. You see, you're not interacting with the people, you're not spending time. It is just that. But the clinical psychologists, the counselors, the people who are dealing with, you're spending time with them. Okay, and a lot of time, almost every day, getting to know what different things that's happening in people's life. So it takes too much from you. So for that, I would always suggest a good question that Nikunja has asked. So you got to be a good human being. You got to be a people-oriented person. You want to do something for people. So this is the attitude that you need to have. Then you need to work on yourself. Okay, you need to work so much on yourself. So people, all those, so this is what I always say to my students, FY students, SY students, and TY when they take admission in Fergusson College for 3 years. So if you want to be a good psychologist, effective psychologist, please work on yourself. Okay, work on yourself. So see, this is a growth which is important, right? So if you have an anxiety problem, if you have an anger problem, if you do not know how to deal with your problems, then how will you be an effective psychologist? So first of all, you need to take care of yourself, whether you need to check how are you dealing with your life situation. So everyone has got life problems, everyone has got. Right. So I first of all has to be a good human being. That is something very, very important, morally, ethically right person. Then I need to develop personality, where I am able to deal with my stress. Okay, everyone has got a problem, but I'm making an effort, right? So I got to be a person who is becoming resilient. All right. So all those things I need to get into. Why? Because when you have these things, then you need to learn the skills of psychology, right? Okay, so when you are a good person, second, you are able to reasonably manage your life properly. Okay, then you get into train into different skills that are there in psychology, so that you can be an effective psychologist. Otherwise you will ruin the life of other people. Right. which is not nice. Or maybe no, tomorrow you'll become a health psychologist or a clinical psychologist counselor. You will wonder what I'm doing. I'm not able to deal with my issues. How am I able to manage with this? So there's a possibility of burnout, possibility of that you have taken a wrong profession. So please okay, I understand that, you know, if you take admission in psychology, one thing is definitely you get to learn many things about human behavior. And as long as you want to study that, okay, fine, that's all right. If you do not want to take that career, absolutely okay, because taking psychology definitely helps us to understand how this thinking, emotion, and behavior works. But especially people, those who want to really do something now in psychology, then you need to look at yourself first. Look at your personality, okay? Look at you as a person. These are the different things you need to look at. And then we are all vulnerable people. We need to develop. We need to work on ourselves. That should be a great attitude. So I think I have
That's
answered that, Nikunja. Yeah.
very well, very well. And I'm sure everyone really has got this very clear that this is a process. It cannot be like a one-time thing that you achieve a degree, you have a certificate, and then you are done with it and you are a psychologist. It's like every day you need to work on yourself also while you're working with your clients too. So thank you for answering that. Well, with that goes a very connecting question, which is, many a times people cannot really get the most out of that application part of it when it comes to their education, unfortunately. But what additionally, in spite of having master's degree or in spite of having graduation done, one can do simultaneously in order to gain those skills or develop those essential skills to be a successful counselor or a psychologist?
Yeah. Good questions again. Unfortunately, this is unfortunately that is there, but the colleges are making, nonetheless, colleges are making efforts to do that. Okay, so there are certain colleges, universities, yes, but then somewhere that practical experience is lacking, and so that's what I always tell that all those teachers and all, and right, so the teachers, there's a theoretical knowledge that is being students are getting, and which is important, the theoretical knowledge that students do get, but somewhere the practical experience do miss. The reason being maybe the teachers profession, they themselves are not, no, really practicing psychology, practicing in a sense that they are not into counseling center, or maybe they are not into hospitals. So somewhere they lack this experience, and because they lack this experience, they're not able to give it to students. So that is, I can see that's happening into universities and colleges, and this, they are making an effort, but now we cannot totally depend on this. So as a smart students, we need to really have a practical experience. So a lot of internship should be done at the UG level.
Right.
That's a very important thing. So a lot of internship that you need to do. So especially if you want to work with clinical psychology, then you need to meet hospitals. Again, as I've told you, mainly that you'll be working with a psychiatrist, but then to start with, that is okay. All right, but then you can also go to different centers where counseling is being practiced, right? So that you are trying to see where your direction is. If you want to become an industrial psychologist, so I know it is difficult to get internship in the industry, but you try hard to get industries, or maybe doing some research project free of cost somewhere in the industry, small industry, right? But then you need to do that. So certain good colleges do provide from, like, for example, if you have to ask me, Fergusson College makes serious efforts to provide this experience to the students, but then other colleges, they're trying hard. So as students also, you need to try that. So a lot of internships are needed. So if you want to become industrial psychology, focus there. If you want to work with children, maybe then you can get into different NGOs where children are there. You get to learn to deal and have this experience. Okay, there are so under supervision, by the way, under supervision, that you should be having those experiences. So that is at the UG level. Plus time and again, I think Pune being a good city where there's a lot of exposure that is there available in different therapies, right? So you can attend different workshops that goes on, seminars that are, webinars that are there these days. Okay, so you need to carry on attending and keep yourself be updated about all those things. So at the UG level that you can do, at the PG level is a requirement because there's a degree courses, and also there's a requirement that you have internship with the psychiatrist or the clinical psychologist or the industries, but it is still limited that I see.
Right.
Okay, so it is expected from the students that you do more and more of experiences that you should be having,
That's
right?
true.
So I think, yeah, that is what you should be doing as a student.
That's right. And Very well said, where this entire field in itself is such which, and the topic of the webinar also for that matter, is exploring the field. And you actually can explore the field in the psychology by getting your hands on it, by actually working and experimenting with different kinds of work which can be available. Like I remember during my master's and during my graduation, how many different kinds of internships that I got to learn. Maybe that time I did not really understand the real importance and what I'm learning out of it. But today in my practice, I do realize that that internship was in itself so helpful. So that was a wonderful thing that, yeah, we need to do a lot of internships and get our hands on the practice. Okay, so I already see too many questions in the chat box, so I'm not going to really go ahead with my set of questions. I'm kind of restricting those set of questions and would like to just ask a last question from my end before I get onto the chat box. We already have 50 plus questions out there, so we will try to address as many as we can with the time that we have in our hand. But a very important question is, though you and I, we know that we have our views about it, but still people have a lot of questions regarding this RCI license. So if one wants to start a practice in India, what do you think your view, if you want to share that, as well as the government or the India norms? So what do you think one should have and how can one have that RCI licensing?
Okay. So I would start first with my views and
Great.
then with the government views. So now it's a license to deal with, as I told you, the normal people and especially people who have greater psychological problems. I'm talking about illnesses, you know, like people have schizophrenia, people have different disorders. Okay. So when you're dealing with these cases, especially for the people who should be dealing with, number one, psychiatrist, no, who from the science background, they do MD and they have these psychiatric practice where they actually practice medicines.
Right.
Okay. So these people who should be dealing with them. Then who else can deal with is a clinical psychologist. Right. So clinical psychologist with the RCI is a government license, basically. So I have my own views related to that because unfortunately, you can do this RCI license, especially from the MPhil centers. Not all MPhil, because MPhil also can be a research degree. I'm talking about MPhil and PsyD, as I told you, right? Okay. So before PsyD was not there, now the PsyD is there. So MPhil as a clinical psychologist, but unfortunately, the centers all over India are very few. And if you see the number of people who are doing MA, good students, good researchers, okay, good students of clinical psychology, unfortunately cannot get into this MPhil. Right? Cannot get into MPhil. Because why? There are very, very few centers. And the number of cases, if you see around in India, are too many. So if the government does this, that, you know, there's a RCI license, okay, right? Then you should be having so many centers, so that the good students can be really really getting trained and are able to deal with this number of problems and issues and the patients that are there. So that's why when I say I'm having a problem related to this, because first of all, there's a need, but the supply through good clinical psychologists is very, very less, right? So why can't we, for example, there are good colleges or universities where MA degree, or you make this 2 years, like there's a 2 years degree, you make this 2 to 3 years degree, okay? Put it together with that MA or MPhil there, all right? Tell the college centers to have a rigorous training to the students. The colleges will be able to do that, so that after 2 years or 3 years, they can be a clinical psychologist. Right? Why there's a need of 2 years MA and then you tell them to take admission into separate colleges where there's a bias also, I'm telling you. Because if you see in Maharashtra, there is only one university, Amity University right now has got MPhil. In Maharashtra, I'm talking about. Whereas there are different states, there's the number of seats that are reserved, very, very few. And also the number of seats are proportionate to number of professors. If there's one associate professor in that MPhil center, then that person can take 4 candidates. If there's an assistant professor, can take only 2 candidates. If there are only 2 people, then only 6 candidates can be taken. So this is a requirement. If the 4 people are there, then only 12 candidates can be taken. But in one college, you see, there are 30 people are passing out as a clinical psychologist. One college.
Right.
Now see, the number of psychological colleges are really doing well. And somehow they cannot really get admission in this. So it doesn't mean that they are not good. They are very good. But the criteria is so much, okay, it becomes very, very difficult. And that's the reason I have serious, means objection to this RCI license, which you have. No, there are only few people who are getting this. No, I think there are good colleges who are really, really doing 2 years degree course. Make it 3 if you want to have. And after 3 years, they should not be give license to all those things. 1, 2, 3 serious practice, and people will be ready. And many students would be ready to practice as a clinical psychologist.
Right.
So this is my views, right? So 3 years is good enough to really build good skills, and it is possible. Like city like Pune, there's so many hospitals which are available. Okay, there are we can have practical experiences. Okay, with under the supervision of psychiatrists or clinical psychologists. It's available. It is possible, but unfortunately, this is a big problem that students are facing. And that is the reason, if you see, Hollywood, Bollywood, they know about psychiatry, they don't know about clinical psychologists. Right? They don't know. Right? And at the end, see, if you Maharashtra, I'm talking about, they go different places. Now, say, Nimans is a center. Okay, Manipal is the center. Bihar is the center. Okay, where, now when you go there, as a student who goes from Maharashtra, I'm talking about, to this particular place, they have to learn the language there. The patients who come there, then they have the different language. It becomes very, very difficult. So especially again from the students have shared these experiences with me that, so even the clients and patients that they have to see in the hospital, first preference is given to those people who have this language. They know about language. So those people who are staying in Bangalore, they know the language. So the patient is given to them. And the other student should be working with the person. So this is a language problem. Gujarat also there is a center. Okay, so this is different. So language becomes a problem. So why not different states? Okay, good colleges, good universities. That MA you make, if you don't know, if you are not okay with 2 years, make it 3 years. But after 3 years, please give license to the students. Okay, if you have a criteria, something, put that criteria. But please, there are very, very good students who can really become good clinical psychologists.
Absolutely.
So Nikunja, this is not happening, unfortunately.
Let's hope it happens sometimes in the future, though.
Yeah, this is not happening. So right now, if you have to ask me, so this is what is happening: 2 years clinical psychology, regular degree MA, and after that, as I told you, there are MPhil centers. Okay, very few centers, unfortunately. There's an interview process that happens.
Yeah.
Okay, the number of seats are very, very few. And if you're good or fortunate enough, there's some luck, different factors that I'm telling you. Okay, you get in, and then there's a 2 years rigorous practice that has been given to you. Again, I'm talking about MPhil good centers, because there are, so to say, again, not so good centers that I'm aware of. So you get 2 years and a lot of practical, means right from 7 o'clock in the morning till evening, you're in the hospital, and theory and a lot of practicals that is given. And there's a support, there's an observation, people guiding you. And MPhil with, also you need to find out, because today's current situation, if you're doing MPhil somewhere, please ask that institute whether there's ICI license, because there are other MPhil center where ICI license, either it was given by the government to them, they can take it away also, because if you do not follow the criteria. So you need to first find out that after 2 years degree, whether that institute is able to give you an ICI license, which I think you get within after 1-2 months, or maybe certain institute they get directly. Okay, so this is the ICI license after MPhil. And then again, you want to do, so that's PsyD I'm talking about. So PhD is a research degree. Those people do PhD, it becomes a research degree. And PsyD is a blend of research and clinical practice. So there are people who want to do this. So maybe 2 years of MPhil in clinical psychology, and 3rd year you can start already enroll for PsyD. Okay, or maybe after MPhil also, after some years you want to have work experience, and again you can go for PsyD. Right, so clinical society these days people are talking about a blend of research and more of clinical experience again.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
So that's about RCI license which the government gives, and then again it's not so easy. After that also you go, once you get an RCI license, you should be getting number of points. I don't want to get into the details. Every year there's number of points that you should be getting. That continues for 5 years. All right. And if you do not get those points, then maybe your license is not valid.
Right.
Okay. So that's another thing. So you need to continuously be practicing.
Right. Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to be really getting my eye on the questions which are in the chat box. So, well, I would like to ask some of the questions which have come to me privately and some of the questions which are on open chat box. Many of them I believe we have addressed, but some of them which I feel we can still talk about is, one of the questions says that if I have done my BA into some other field, or maybe another degree that I have pursued, for example, it could be commerce or engineering. In that case, if I want to become a psychologist, how can I become? And I'm adding my own question to it, is if they cannot become a psychologist, could there be any way where they can still practice as a counselor? Because there is still a difference between psychologist and a counselor. So please, your views on that.
Yeah, so psychologist, as I told you, that is an advanced type of state where you do MPhil and PhD. Okay. Yes. Especially all those people, those who want to really do something in psychology, I really feel bad for them. Definitely, yes, because somewhere you do not follow the regular process because of due reasons, and you understand, and then it becomes very, very difficult. It's very, very practical. So people come and they want to do admissions in MA, but because there are certain rules, like like for example, if you were to ask me about the Pune University, the rule says the preference will be given to those people who do psychology at UG level, and unfortunately, people they get rejected because of this. Okay, so that is something sad. But I would suggest, nonetheless, people, please, you can definitely get in. You can be a good counselors. Right, you can be a good counselor. So I would suggest, please get into this diploma 1-year course, or maybe a certificate 1-year course from a good institute, okay, where a lot of practical experience is being given, so that you can still be a good counselor. Okay, so I think that is still possible. You should be doing that, I think. Yeah, so you can still, so another thing is, please understand that if you're doing that certificate course or diploma course of 1 year, it automatically then you do not get a chance to do MA degree again. So this is, please understand that. Okay, so it is not a bridge type of course that, okay, UG you did not have a psychology, now you do this PGCCP 1-year course and then automatically you are eligible to take MA degree. No, it's not like this. Okay, but I would suggest, if you're not doing that, it's becoming difficult. Okay, you can still be practicing counseling, and we require very, very good and effective counselors in different fields. Right, so you can, I would suggest, there's a school counselor that everywhere we require health psychologists there, maybe a counselor is needed, right? And certain times, to tell you, MA degree courses become little more theoretical, and these 1-year courses become very, very practical. So you're likely to have a very good practical experience there. So that way, I think you can still pursue your career as not a psychologist, so to say, but as a counselor.
Right. Okay. Okay. There is another question which says, if I'm just repeating maybe the same question, so I'm going to move on to the next question. Yeah, could you talk a little about the BA psychology honors and majors? There is a difference in honors degree.
Yeah, so good question. I think that's sometimes, because as an HOD, I get a lot of calls. So do you have a BA honors or BA degree? Okay, and I really wonder what exactly they want to really. So please understand. So I would not like to explain what is BA honors and BA degree, but I would like to say that, say, like for example, you see symbiosis, you get BA degree and you get BA honors, where you have number of credits. We all talk about credits. Okay, why? Because internationally now the credits are accepted. Okay, so people, if you want to take admission anywhere these days, do not think about honors or a degree, because these days all the colleges, especially good colleges, autonomous colleges, you're supposed to be getting 132 credits. 132 credits. I'm talking about this regular degree, this honors, 132 credits. And if you're getting 132, because this is the latest one from the UGC, you should be getting 132 credits. Good enough to take admission again internationally. So there's a wrong idea that if you take honors, so you get to learn a lot of things and then you get admission to international institutes only when you do honors. That's a wrong conception. Okay, wrong conception. So if you want to apply tomorrow abroad, I would always suggest that you take admission, especially in the autonomous colleges, either university or autonomous colleges. I'm saying autonomous. Okay, so it's not that the affiliated colleges are not really doing well. It's not that, but autonomous colleges, there's a requirement of 132 credits. Okay, which is going to be helpful for you to take admission internationally. Because another institute, they do ask you how many number of credits that you have taken in research or testing, and you get all this possible in autonomous colleges and the university especially. Okay, so there's no problem with honors or degree. It's absolutely the number of credits. The only thing is in the difference, if you ask me, honors is number of credits that you can earn a little more. Yeah. Okay, like for example, suppose if you go for autonomous colleges, 132 credits are compulsory. You should be doing after your graduation, and plus other 7-8 credits. But now even autonomous colleges, okay, there is now flexibility where you would be getting 132 credits. Plus there are certain courses that have started in autonomous colleges where you can get those credits also. So right now compulsory 132, but you can get 140 credits, 142 credits, which is possible in honors. Right? So this was the wrong conception. Honors only is able to give you admission in the internationally. Absolutely not. So if you want to plan and apply abroad, you should be taking admission in universities or autonomous colleges.
Okay, and another question that goes is on teaching, like psychology, being a psychologist, and then its scope into teaching or as a professor. How can one do that? So apart from that net set criteria that you spoke, is there anything else that you would like to talk about?
No, net set is the minimum thing. Okay, and net set is the minimum thing. Again, I would like to have first is my views are always there. So just because you qualify net set, it doesn't mean that you can become a good professor. People, first I would always suggest that you need to have a teaching skills.
True.
Again, always look at yourself because you're going to deal with the children. If you do not have teaching skills, please do not apply for this teaching job. Okay, so teaching skill, communication skills are something very, very important. So the criteria is your MA post-graduation. You can give this net exam where you can apply anywhere in India. And if you give a set exam, then it is restricted to the state. So set exam in Maharashtra, you can teach only for Maharashtra and Goa. Whereas if you give a net exam, then you can apply for jobs as a professor, assistant professor, anywhere in India. Okay, but again, please know the reality that after you're doing set net, doesn't mean that automatically you become professor. These days, government is having a lot of problems. The vacancy is not there. I'm telling you the reality. And so you need to wait. Lot of people, lot of teachers who are qualified, but then no, they are not able to still get to the full salary because of the professor. But I'm telling you, especially when you talk to psychology, is a field which please don't get only for try to become professor, but practical field is huge and we can do a lot of things in psychology. I'm telling you, if you do not become a professor also, if you want to practice counseling, clinical psychology, industrial psychology, you can earn from 15,000 to 1 lakh rupees monthly. It is possible. It is possible. If you think that is a profession should give me more than 1 lakh rupees, and it's going to be very difficult and tough, right people, then that psychology is not meant for you. First of all, it's a noble profession. You're dealing with people, and where the job satisfaction is likely to be huge if you want to really contribute to the community and to the society. But nothing like from between 15 to 1 lakh rupees monthly salary you're likely to get. In the beginning itself, you're not likely to get. You need to struggle. You need to struggle, and so in the beginning you're likely to struggle because a lot of practical experience also is needed, and you need to be an effective, I'm telling you, effective, I would say the psychologist, so to say, not psychologist from the degree point of view, effective psychologist having a really, really good knowledge, command, okay, then this is going to really help you to do your career as a school counselor, school psychologist, or industrial psychologist, or for that matter, clinical psychologist. Right? Yeah.
Okay. Another question is, I'm just tired of scrolling because there are so many questions. But well, there is another question which says about doing a psychology as a degree in India and further its scope in abroad, or vice versa, where a person finishes a degree and completes his or her degree abroad and then wants to practice out in India. What will be your opinions on that?
Yeah, I would only talk about especially means focus on the clinical psychology. Okay. Right? Yeah. Why? Because I would suggest that if you want to practice in India, okay, then I would suggest don't go abroad, waste your money and come back. Why? Because so if suppose like I would, because there's a government license, that's also a license, I would always suggest that you do your MA degree in clinical psychology here, and plus you do your RCI, I mean MPhil degree here, and if you want to do PsyD, you do here. So complete your MPhil here, so that you get the license and you you can practice. Then if you want to have advanced knowledge, you want to learn many things, then you go abroad. Okay, and then you can come back here. But then there are many people who are not aware. You go abroad and do your therapies and all many things, and then when you come back to India, but you don't have an RCI license, you don't have an MPhil, so you cannot really practice. Again, see, this is a problem because you can be having advanced knowledge, you are really very, very good, but unfortunately because of this legal system, right, you will not able to practice here. So when you clinical psychology, I would always suggest that India is really, really doing well in clinical psychology. So please do this. And then after that, I would suggest go abroad for advanced knowledge. Okay. For industrial psychology, child psychology, there's no licensing as such. Okay. License that you should be getting. So MA you can do here, or if you want to go abroad, MA you can go there. There's a scope there also. There's a scope in India. So if you do industrial psychology from India, you can still get the jobs. It's not a problem. You go internationally. What happens to you is because there's an international name in front of you. So maybe during the interviews you're called. Okay, they might have a bias towards you, a positive bias that you have done. You have gone to internationally. Yes, but then at the end your skill, everything depends on that. So that's related to industrial psychology. And unfortunately, child psychology, I told you, is still a problem. But then the UK, there are good centers with a huge amount. You need to pay 17, 18 or 25 lakhs rupees. So I would suggest please do, if you have money, then go ahead and come back, no problem. But then you can do clinical psychology, and and there are different centers which actually deal with children. Have those experiences so that tomorrow you can open your own center. A counselor, I don't think so you require to go abroad. No, you can do this in India. And there are, so right now the experience, the therapies and all that you should be training yourself, the exposure that you get in India, it's a really good. So I really don't suggest that, you should be going abroad, okay, and spending your time and money. So I would suggest please do all these courses in India, and there are seminars. Please do researches. There are seminars happen internationally. So if you want to have experience, please go for those seminars, like 1 month, 1 day, 15 days. So you get to know what's happening internationally. But if you want to do PhD, okay, and all, so yeah, so you can have those experiences there. But I think in India also we are really doing well.
Right.
If you want to go and just get settled there, then that's okay. If you want to go there and settle there, then that's already huge scope. I would suggest huge scope. Germany, UK, US, and other places is for psychology. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And in India, there is a scope, but especially I told you the branches which I have discussed earlier.
Okay, now the next question, before I open the actual platform for everyone to ask the questions on video, is what do you think, and this is something which is coming from me also and some of the people out there, is how and why is psychology becoming a booming and a satisfying field to work in?
Psychology. Thinking, emotion, behavior.
Right.
You see, as it is, that's what I said, it's been always there. And, I would suggest, whether we like it or not, forget about the profession, everyone should be knowing about psychology. Everyone should be knowing about psychology. Psychology as a profession is one thing, okay? But psychology to understand oneself, understand other people, and self-growth is something very, very important. So every person should be knowing about psychology, something very, very important. And
Right.
as a profession, because you need to also work for other people, there are so many issues, so many problems. So the stress that people perceive is huge. Is huge. And we need to contribute to the society. And that's why psychology can become a very, you name any field and psychology is there. You take
Absolutely.
political science, psychology is there. You talk about economic psychology, you name any field and psychology is there. So psychology definitely works for oneself.
Yeah.
Okay, and at the same time, we can contribute to different people committing suicide, people having depressions, and also a lot of things that are going on, and they do not know how to deal with their problems. And that's why we require effective psychologists who can contribute and help them and bring positive change in other people. But before that, I should be positive myself, and
Absolutely.
that can be helped through having the knowledge of psychology.
Absolutely, absolutely. Great. So, sir, in Indian college, no therapy as such is taught. So, from where should we get knowledge about different therapies? I have one answer, but I would like to hear from you first.
Yeah. No, I don't think so that Indian colleges the therapy is not being taught. It is there. It's there, but not that level. So
Right.
that's what I told you somewhere, that theory is becoming theory, lot of theoretical explanation is there in MA degree. So to have that solution, it will be nice that government gives that good colleges, autonomous colleges, universities make those 2 years and 3 years and have a more of practical approach. Okay, because especially this therapy do work for counseling process, child psychology, clinical psychology, because therapy is something really very important for one's life, and also we can effectively help people to deal with their problem without taking medicines, to therapy. So these talking therapies, and there are wonderful therapies. And that's what I always suggest, that we need to have an eclectic approach. So people should get trained into different therapies. Unfortunately, it's not happening in the college. But as I told you, autonomous colleges, they're making changes here. Okay, and they have introduced therapies, and a lot of practical experience also is given. But if you don't get it, as I told you, Pune Center, Mumbai Center, the different places, good institutes are calling people internationally. Okay, arranging the workshops, arranging the webinars there. So you can definitely have the exposure there, but then you will only have an exposure. You see, you will not able to get maybe more of practical training there, but this is important to build the knowledge into therapies. So autonomous colleges, good colleges are providing, but good institutes also are providing. So please take the benefits from there.
Okay. And can you name a good, can you name then such institutes where we can take some counseling courses?
Counseling was a good institute. I think I would be biased in naming. So
okay, I shall.
Yeah, I think Nikunja can give that, talk about different institutes, but they are there.
I have another question which goes probably in hand, that how can I apply, and can I still apply for your course of postgraduate counseling in, postgraduate psychology and counseling? Okay. So,
Not me to answer. I think that Nikunja can answer.
Okay. So, you can add if you want to, though. But we at EMOTICONS India also provide a 1-year-long course on being a certified counselor, which is a post-graduation course in counseling psychology, which mainly focuses on practicing therapies extensively. That includes the rational emotive behavior therapy and the play therapy, as well as cognitive therapy, which is also widely known as cognitive behavior therapy. Along with that, we have other subjects which we include in that, because he mentioned that to be a counselor or to be a therapist, it's not necessary to only have that knowledge, but you need to have a knowledge as a psychologist as well. So, well, yeah, you can definitely inquire more about that. I would not talk about this extensively here, but you can definitely inquire about this on our website. You can check the details, which is www.emoticonsindia.com. So yes, and I think now I'm going to be stopping my answer there and opening this platform. If anybody would like to ask you a question on a video, so that is on the open platform, maybe then I can ask everyone to unmute themselves and turn their videos on, and you can ask the questions directly to Anil sir. We can take a couple of questions because we are already running over time. So yeah, over to others, over to everyone here who is attending.
Can I add something?
Sure. Yes, I guess that's Manorama.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, sir. I'm Dr. Manorama. I would like to add something here in this platform. This is regarding the working as psychologist in the armed forces. We have a lot of vacancies in DRDO as psychologists for selection of officers in armed forces. Vacancies, various centers at Bhopal, Allahabad, Bhatinda and Bangalore. They have SSB centers where psychologists are required, and they are civilian psychologists. They are not people who are working as officers in services. There is center at Bhopal, Vizag, Bangalore and Kolkata for Navy, and Center for Air Force is in Dehradun, Varanasi, Mysore and Ahmedabad. And different air bases like in Delhi. Also in DIPR in Timarpur in Delhi. So this offers a good pay and perks with a lot of respect and community and responsibility. And details can be got from DRDO website. So
okay,
that is.
Yeah, I think that's nice, ma'am. I think you added, because defense is an area where psychology, I think that I have missed maybe, but good that you have added that point. It's a big area where this good psychologists are needed, and thank you so much for giving this, because there are many people, students are watching, and that can be different, very important area. Thank you. Yes.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Hello, ma'am.
Yes, I see somebody. Is that Miss Jyoti?
Yes, good evening, sir, and good evening, ma'am.
Good
Thank
evening.
you for a lot of knowledge which you have given to us. My one question is that I'm 36 years old. I've recently doing my master's in psychology. I did my BA and MA education. I felt like, got interested in psychology. So I pursued it, and now I'm also doing a advanced diploma course in guidance and counseling for the children. So now I would like to know, what should I do in future? Like, should I go directly for the practice, or do I need to add on some other, degree to practice or to establish my own clinic?
Ma'am, which is the area, means what exactly that you would like to practice? If you can give me a brief
So,
idea.
I'm doing masters from the clinical psychology, and I'm doing a diploma course in guidance and counseling for the children, sir.
Okay.
This is our RCI recognized diploma, sir.
All right. So you'll be getting the RCI license for that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So, but I'm more interested into clinical fields, sir.
Yeah. So if you like, for example, if you want to do clinical field, then you have to do MPhil, ma'am.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. So MPhil is a necessary. That's the requirement. So there are centers. That's what I told you. Unfortunately, there are very few centers. So as I told you that there are 2 years degree course you should be doing, and I think there are very few centers right now. Maybe I'm not able to name them. There is an MPhil with 1 year at the same time.
Okay,
So
sir.
maybe, yeah, you can maybe look for that. So you don't have to do maybe 2 years. If you want to do 2 years, that's okay. But if you want to do MPhil with 1 year, it's possible. You get RCI license. The difference between MPhil with 1 year and MPhil with 2 years, here is with MPhil with 2 years, you can practice as a clinical psychologist, open your center, work in the hospitals, work in for government jobs.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
and plus, especially there are places with MPhil you can teach there as a
Okay.
professor. But
Okay,
with
sir.
MPhil with 1 year, you can again have a ICL license. You can open your own center. You can work with the hospitals and all. But only you cannot teach in these places.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. So
Sir,
there's a
I would
difference
like
between
to,
1 year, 2 year. Yeah.
sir, at the same time, I would like to have know about your view about MIT University, sir, because I've searched. So that is also providing a MPhil in clinical, sir.
Yeah. See, ma'am, what I would tell you is there are different institutes which are providing, you see. But then as I told you, there are always positive and negative sides of these things. So now here after, after your post graduation, whatever that experience that you get at MPhil level, please take it. But I would like you to depend on yourself more.
Okay,
Okay,
sir.
because I'm telling you, I have a lot of experience with different students. Like Fergusson College now, our students they go to different centers, and one thing that is coming very, very strongly, and they tell me, sir, that very few places, or maybe most of the places, it's the proper guidance that you should be getting. It's not there. Though there's a 2 years of, definitely they get practical experience. They get to know number of clients for 2 years. That is there.
Okay.
But as using different therapies and all and becoming independent becomes little different. Why? Because the professors there maybe, or the people supervisors are a little dominant in the sense, we tell you to practice this therapy.
Okay, sir.
Proper guidance that if you're expecting to different centers is unfortunately not there maybe, or whatever guidance, that's what I'm saying is whatever guidance that you do get, please go ahead there, but mainly depend on yourself. Get the license, you do get the experiences, but then you need to train yourself into different therapies. So you do get that experience there, but then you also need to carry on updating yourself and training yourself.
So as I have discussed the same thing with my professors also, they have suggested me to go for practicing first, like whether join some schools or school for gaining some practical knowledge, and then after a year or two to go for MPhil, sir.
No, I would
So
not suggest that, ma'am, because MPhil already you're going to get practice.
okay, sir.
MPhil is
So,
definitely you're going to get.
so you're not
So,
audible.
yeah,
Yes,
sorry,
sir.
there was a call. Sorry. So yeah, so I would suggest no, because MPhil is a place where is a lot of practical experiences. Definitely, any center that you go, reasonable practice experience that you get,
Okay, sir.
you will be getting that. So you don't have to waste time now getting into. I think if you have that, you would like to be a complete clinical psychologist, please apply for clinical MPhil.
Okay, sir. So thank you for your advice. Thank you.
Welcome,
Thanks a
ma'am.
lot, sir.
Hello, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hello.
Hello. I believe that Ms. Shivani wanted to ask one question, and I think we can take that as one last question. And I would like to request everyone else whose questions are not being able to address here. This entire recording as well will be available later on our YouTube channel. So you can either watch it there, or else it has been live streamed on our Facebook group. So you can join our group as well. And all your questions, you can try to put that in the comment box over there. We will try to address them later on as soon as possible with the best capacity we can. So Ms. Shivani, we will just take one last question from your end. So please go ahead.
Yes, thank you, ma'am. I actually wanted to ask that I am a counseling psychologist. I'm a counseling psychologist, postgraduate from SMT University. I have been practicing 2 years as a counselor in schools. So I wanted to know, to practice privately or to do something on own, what exactly ethically I should need first. Registrations or anything which is required, because I'm not a clinical psychologist.
Shivani, don't worry, because there is no. You see, if you want to practice and if you want to open your center, based on that, I think you can open, because there is no what you can say. definite guidance, so to say, that you only when you're done your MPhil you can open your own center. Absolutely not. If you have done your counseling course also, I think as long as you have this practical skills and almost, for example, you have spent time, it's a 1 year legitimate course, I think you can do that. Only thing is, when you start your center, you have to go through the process of registering as your company or whatever. um, okay, I think you can do that. So you don't require to have this MPhil clinical license only to start your center.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay. There is a request that has come to me on a private chat, and Sai wants to ask last question, and that's definitely a last question. Let's just invite you, Professor, once again on this platform, so that all the other questions which have not been answered, maybe sometimes in the future we can have you again and you can address them. So I hope you would be okay in coming over this platform again with us. So Sai, please go ahead with this last question.
Yeah. Hello, sir. Good evening to both of you. I just had one small question. So many people have already completed their masters in clinical psychology, like me. So one common thing which we all come across is that we really want to go ahead and practice a particular therapy. So there is REBT, there is CBT, there's art therapy. So I have myself researched a lot about of institutes where I can actually go ahead and specialize myself or get acquainted with a particular therapy. Just to give you an example, I'm very much looking into the REBT course at Albert Ellis Institute in Mumbai. So the thing is, many of us, as you might be knowing this, that Albert Ellis is an internationally very recognized thing, and all of that. So it has a very high fees and all of that. So do you have any idea where we can actually go ahead and like learn or actually get acquainted with and get certified for a particular therapy such as REBT or only CBT? Are there any institutes like these?
Yeah, Sai, I would like to answer you this little differently, and maybe it is going to be beneficial for the other people. I
Sure.
would always suggest that do not get just certified or just one therapy. Okay, this is I would always suggest. If you want to practice as a psychologist or counselor, we always need to have an eclectic approach. Like, for
Yeah.
example, you cannot have a one medicines for all different problems to people, right?
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
and
yes.
that's the reason I think, especially now, first of all, I myself is REBT therapist, and my PhD and all is all into pursuing the different things that I've worked, and the work is going on related to PhD. Okay, it is on REBT, right? And there are a lot of things I personally am now trying to dig deeper into REBT. Okay, so I'm a hardcore REBT therapist, plus I have a different experience and knowledge, and I've trained myself into different therapies. And I've been practicing now as a counseling, not only professor, that experience also have. So from this experience, I'm telling you, we need to always have an eclectic approach. So we
Yes,
should
yes.
not fit in people into REBT therapy. You see, that's a wrong approach. That's a wrong thing that is going on, unfortunately. That people, like, for example, I want to get trained only into client centered. I want to always get trained into only a gestalt therapy. I want to get into this one. I don't think so. No, these are different medicines, I would say. So let's
Yeah.
analyze like that. So these are different medicines, and more the medicines that I know, okay, the more the therapies, the skills that I know, I become an effective psychologist and counselor.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
based on that line, if you spend a lot of money, unfortunately, Albert Ellis Institute is good, nice, yeah, but it's international, and then okay, almost lakh rupees are being
Yes.
charged for the student. This is what I'm listening
Yes.
to, and which is
Yes.
not really very good. I would
Yes.
suggest. So it
Yes.
should not be a money making racket. It should
Yes.
not be a money making racket. But unfortunately, this is happening. They must be having their own reasons why, because the international people are coming and training. But I
Yes.
am telling you, there are good people also in India, because the
Mm-hmm.
international people, the culture is different, the clients are
Yes.
different. Okay,
Yes.
and
Yes.
India, the
Yes.
culture is different. All
Yes.
right. So
Yes.
there are
Yes.
good people, good centers, that, and reasonable amount. Definitely there is some charge, a reasonable amount that you should be getting trained into a particular therapy.
Yes, yes,
But
sure,
let's
sure.
not try to get into, I would like to become a REBC therapist. No, I would like to become a psychologist.
Yeah.
That is the main thing, because the
Yes.
therapy is there. Okay, I need to start with that, but I need to have a different knowledge in the field of psychology, and plus different counseling strategies I should be working on. So
Yes.
spending so much money and just becoming a REBT therapist, I would never suggest doing that.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so for that
yes.
matter, I would like to know, because Nikunja Gujar Emoticon Center is really doing well. Okay, and there are different centers that are there. So this, like for example, Emoticon centers, they do have this workshop on REBT therapy. They provide this, and followed by that, they do have a belong session. And belong session means it's not that after workshop that you're left. Okay, continued training is provided, and regular belong session do happen. So I think I would suggest, Sai, you get in touch with Nikunja Gujar and find out these
Sure,
things.
sure.
So I would never suggest that they spend lakh of rupees just to get in trained into one particular therapy.
Yes, yes,
Which is
yes,
not okay.
yes.
So always try to understand that we need to have an eclectic approach. So when you
Yes.
have an eclectic approach, getting trained into different therapies, I can be an effective counselor and psychologist.
Yes. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so that brings me towards the end of the webinar. And as again, I'm repeating many of the questions which I'm not able to take right now due to the time constraint. We will be able to answer them if you put them on our comments, probably either on YouTube or on Facebook or even on our Instagram account. And we'll definitely try to get back to you with all those answers. So thank you once again, Professor Anil Savarkar, for coming on this platform and sharing really a lot of information, I would say, within this last some hours that we have been discussing on this. I'm sure many of them have gotten a lot of clarification on that. And again, if you have any other queries, you can reach out to us. The contact details you might see on your website, or sorry, on the slide. So please make sure that you really take this journey with a scientific approach and try to be the best human being that you can, as he rightly said, that to be a psychologist, first step is to be a good human being. So I wish everyone all the best, a lot of wishes from our end to start your journey or to continue your journey in this wonderful field and noble field of psychology. Thank you so much. You all can, I can unmute everyone. You all can say bye to him. So yeah, you all can unmute yourself.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, sir.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, sir.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you so much, sir.
Bye. Thank you. I'll be ending the meeting now. See you, everyone. Good night.
Yeah.